to this video on cultural competence. So what is cultural competence? Responding effectively to situations that requires cultural competence, which is our ability to interact effectively with people of different cultures, subcultures and backgrounds. Cultural competence is also being aware of our own cultural identity and personal views about difference. So as a person working in sport, we need to enhance our cultural competence. Our culture continues to become more diverse, challenging us to broaden our understanding of subcultures and different groups from our own. So you probably experienced different examples. So, I grew up in a small North Wales town. In terms of cultural mix within that environment, very limited. Coming to university, meeting lots of different people from different cultures and background, obviously developed and enhanced my cultural competence. Then actually going out and working in Cardiff, in that area, working with different subcultures, having an understanding of different religions and beliefs within those environments, all which ultimately impacts, on sport. So you have degrees of cultural competence. So the following diagram looks at a continuum of cultural competence from cultural destructiveness right through until culturally competent. This is adapted from Crossbasman, Dennis and Isaac's 1999. So as you can see from the example, the level of cultural competence from the bottom to the top, there's key descriptions that align to that and examples. What I'd like you to do is spend a couple of minutes having a read through of this table. I'm not going to read out every point at this point. I want you to spend a bit of time digesting the following information. So I'm going to pause this video for a couple of seconds to kind of read that information through. So hopefully you spent a few minutes actually spending a bit of time reading through that table. Obviously at the top of the level you've got cultural competence, which is accepted of differences in regards to cultural understanding and having a great understanding of the different dynamics. The one below that you've got cultural pre-competence, which would basically look at being more competent but we fail to engage in the education of self-reflection needing to become more culturally aware. So at this level we engage in tokenism, which is a superficial action similar to go through the motions. Is to be inclusive of members of different groups. A tokenism example would be inviting a woman coach to be an assistant coach, just to have a female coach but not including her in any significant planning or decision making in. Cultural blindness is seen when people invoke the classic I don't see colour, I treat everyone the same. Youth athletes are not all the same. They have different needs, personalities, motivations, faiths, beliefs. Treating everyone the same typically assumes that everyone fits with the dominant cultural practice of the day. So an example of this could be, telling your 7 and 8 year old players to kick the ball around at home with their dads assumes that everyone has a father at home and that mums can't pass a ball in soccer. So, that's the kind of thing we may be say and not mean to be negative or, have that cultural blindness, but it's just kind of the expected norms. Cultural incapacity involves behaviours that are not intended to be destructive but are destructive in subtle ways. By assuming that girls are not as serious, motivated, as skilled as boys, coaches basically are cheating them out of their challenging skill development that they need. So that's obviously an example for that one. Cultural destructiveness basically damages our culture and all people and is a deliberate discriminating against people of different subcultures. So this could be the ill treatment of females, gay, lesbian athletes. Sport is seen as a masculine culture or competitive sport. Acceptance of sexism, racism, homophobic comments, jokes is definitely cultural destructiveness. And again, it might not be we say those things, it's when we ignore those. So we have a responsibility to be culturally competent and ensure that we create environments that, sport is inclusive, open and accepting rather than, allowing things to be said and done in this environment. So hopefully that insight and spending a little bit of time in terms of levels of competence, and you may be right at the top of that level, but you may have lack of knowledge in certain areas, so you float between the two. So it's definitely a line of continuum, and there's definitely need for for people to do a bit of reading and research and get a great understanding of different cultures within our society. So what I'd like to do is complete the following task, which is how culturally competent are you? Look over the levels of the continuum for cultural competence and reflect on your own personal cultural competence in relation to your experiences of working in sport. What level are you right now? Has your cultural competence changed over time? And if so, what contributed to this change? It's okay if you don't feel culturally competent in all situations. The important thing is to increase your awareness about cultural competence, to commit to enhance your competence in relation to specific cultures and challenges. So I'd like to spend a few minutes about thinking about those key points. I've obviously identified my differences from, a youth being from a small North Wales town to, moving to Cardiff, going to university, experiencing different people, then working in sport with lots of different subcultures, and obviously then, working in the US and other parts of the world. So what I'd like you to do is actually put some action points together, or some key points how you plan to become more culturally competent. So if I was doing this, I guess my understanding, I have quite a good awareness of different cultures, but I am probably quite limited in understanding the Muslim faith and their kind of, how we can ensure inclusivity in that environment, and the religious kind of impacts on sport that they may occur, especially in females. So that would probably be something I would probably go away and look at to create a great understanding of. So I'd like you to spend some time on working this on for yourself.